Alright, so this is going to be a video of me explaining what happens when the North Node Rahu comes into conjunction with the moon in your birth chart. So, what is the North Node Rahu? The North Node Rahu is basically the head of a dragon that doesn't have, or the head of a serpent, whichever one you want to go with, and doesn't have a body. The head, the North Node, can be symbolic of a plethora of things. It can represent the ego and how it's never satisfied, and it can just represent insatiable desire, since this is a head without a body. So you just see an obsessive nature of consuming things, but never getting full off the things that it consumes. So the North Node Rahu sort of has like an over consumption type of energy to it. It amplifies the traits of the house, sign, and planet that it is associated with. Wherever the North Node Rahu is placed in your chart, it shows an area that you need to focus on in this life. Or, in a more general sense, it represents an area that you didn't focus on over the course of several lifetimes, unlike your South Node K2. So because this is an area of your life where your soul needs to work on, or your soul is relatively new and inexperienced in that area of your life, you'll tend to make a lot of mistakes and errors in that area of your life. North Node and South Node, but the North Node is a mathematical point. It's not a physical planet. It's just a position of when the sun and our moon transited at the right degree and phase or whatever, you get an eclipse. So therefore the North Node and South Node are known as shadow planets, shadow grahas. And when there is an eclipse, there's like darkness going over the sun or darkness going over the moon. So wherever the North Node or South Node is placed in your chart, there's darkness over that planet, sign, and house. Yeah, the North Node is associated with foreign things. Yeah, the North Node is associated with foreign and unusual and taboo things. And I can go on and on with the things associated with the North Node. But what is the moon? The moon represents the mind, the emotions, and the mother. The moon is associated with water and fluids of all kinds, I believe. The moon is like one of the main things, aside from the fourth house, that you look at in someone's chart to assess the happiness and to assess the happiness of a native. And for more detail on that, you can look at my how to identify depression in someone's chart, which should be my miscellaneous playlist. But essentially, I'm getting off topic, but essentially by looking at the fourth house and looking at the moon, these two houses and like the birth chart and like, you know, other divisional charts like the D4 chart, that house and the position of the moon and the quality of it, you know, will determine, you know, the happiness and like quality of life that a native will feel. Because your home, your fourth house is supposed to be, your fourth house is like represents the relationship with the mother and the home life. And it's like, if you can't get no peace in your home life or in an indoor dwelling, which the fourth house represents, or if you don't get, you know, that nurturing, that motherly nurturing in your life, and you don't got peace and stability within your home, then you will likely, you know, be like a restless and irritable and unhappy person if you didn't have a happy home life or decent home life growing up, or a decent childhood. And the moon is your mind. So if the moon is unwell, that means your mind is unwell. And if your mind is jacked up, well, then you might view the world and life as fucked up and messed up too. Because this is the body and it contains the soul, but the mind steers the body. The mind determines how you will utilize your body. It will determine the actions you will take. So if your mind is messed up and the way you view things is messed up, and if you didn't have a good household or childhood, if that's messed up, then you probably are irritable or unhappy, depressed, really traumatized individual, potentially, in a general sense. But what happens when these two come into conjunction? Well, this is sort of be a very general video, because the North Node, South Node, and the Moon, they greatly get their personality and traits based upon the sign they're associated with and what planets aspect them. Because these are, two planetary bodies, or grahas, that do not produce their own light. The Moon reflects the light of the Sun. So the Moon doesn't produce its own light. The North Node and South Node, they are eclipses. They don't produce their own light. They're shadows. A shadow is only born when it has... You can only see your shadow when there's some light. So, if without no light to be shined on, you won't see the real qualities and essence of the South Node and the North Node. So with this conjunction, the things I'll be saying would be very general and hit or miss for a lot of you, unless I look at your chart personally and know the nakshatra and all that stuff. But in a general sense of what could happen with this conjunction is that you could be someone who could easily be an alcoholic. Since I just told you that the Moon is associated with fluids and water and drinks. And the North Node Rahu is associated with foreign things, exotic things. So this could be liquor. This could be weed. You could want to consume an exotic drink. You could be interested in like an ayahuasca or something. So these people potentially, especially when it's associated with the second house or second lord, you could see someone who could be an alcoholic with this conjunction. Another thing that you could see is that with this conjunction, it shows that you are someone who didn't focus or deal with the things in relation to the Moon over the course of your several lifetimes. So this time, in this lifetime, you need to focus on the things in relation to what the Moon is. And because this is a new area that your soul is working and focusing on, you'll make a lot of mistakes. So, since the Moon represents the mother, you could have an unusual relationship with the mother. She might be distant or far away relationship with the mother. Maybe you and your mother might be like foreigners or outcasts in comparison to the society and world that you live in. Like, in a more simpler example, you could be someone who has an Asian mother, but you live in like a black community or a white community, or you could be someone who just have a mother potentially of another race, or maybe that relationship with the mother is just non-existent, or just unusual, or whatever. But there's definitely some type of karma with the mother with this conjunction, and it would mainly come alive when you run the Mahadasha, the planetary time period of either Rahu or the Moon. But probably more so when you really are just more so under the Antardasha or Mahadasha of Rahu, which you really see the effects of this conjunction take place. But when the planetary time period, if either Moon or Rahu come into effect, in Vimshotri at least, potentially, your mother could, in a sense, go away. She might become foreign to you. What I mean by that is, since the North Node Rahu represents unseen things, shadowy things, illusions, foreign things, in a practical sense, maybe, potentially, maybe your mother, maybe you get separated from your mother during a planetary time period of this conjunction. Maybe she has to go to a rehabilitation center. Maybe she gets in prison, goes to jail. God forbid, maybe she dies. But you just can't say that, oh, someone's mother is going to pass away during the time period of this conjunction. Because no, you got to look at other different combinations of someone's chart to see the death of people in your life. But, in a general sense, that could potentially happen with this conjunction. Some foreign element will come in between you and or your mother, potentially, with this conjunction when you run the planetary time period of these two grahas. Another thing of this conjunction, you could be someone who could be victim to like mental disorders. Since the moon is the mind and the emotions, and Rahu is unseen things, and Rahu amplifies stuff. The activities of the moon, the activities of the mind is enhanced. The mind and the natures and qualities of the moon are eclipsed. And this gets real negative if the moon is waning. Don't quote me on this. I forgot. I feel bad, but I don't claim to be a perfect astrologer. I believe waxing is when the moon is becoming brighter, and waning is when the moon is dying. It's becoming darker. It's heading towards the new moon. So if you was born with a moon that is waning, that's getting darker, or just a relatively dark moon in general, astrologically, it's considered to be an unhappy moon because it's not really bright and white, and it's like essentially dying in a sense. So if you got like a real dark moon on top of this conjunction, and then if the conjunction is really close in degrees with each other, and especially if this is like in a water sign or in a moksha house, which is the 4th, 8th, and 12th house, mainly probably 8th and 12th, you could be someone who could probably suffer from mental disorders, or if the moon is, maybe if this conjunction falls in the 6th house potentially with other, malefic aspects and stuff, you can have a very stressed out, unhappy, mental disorder type of mind, really schizophrenic and stuff. Hear things or perceive things that other people can't see, hear, and perceive. It could just probably drive you crazy and you just go insane. And or your mind could become very intuitive with this conjunction potentially, depending on sign, nakshatra, and aspects. You can have a very intuitive mind. And with this conjunction, you just probably don't think normally. You don't utilize your mind and process your emotions in a logical, practical way. Or you just struggle to really utilize and express your emotions in a way that maybe most people might do it, because like I said, the North Node represents an area of your life that your soul needs to focus on and work on, because it probably didn't focus and nurture that area over the course of several lifetimes. So it's new to that area, so you'll be new and struggle and make mistakes when it comes to the relationship with the mother and mother type figure. You'll be new and make mistakes, a lot of mistakes more so than usual when it comes to you dealing with your emotions and expressing your emotions. You could be someone who could really suffer from mental disorders because your North Node Rahu could be like, I'm not used to dealing with emotions. I'm not used to having to deal with the things in relation to the moon. And then plus I hate the moon. The North Node and South Node, they do not like sun or moon. If you know the mythological story, which I'm not going to explain here because I got like an hour video explaining details on North Node and Rahu on my Rahu North Node playlist. But mythologically, the North Node and South Node, they don't like sun and moon. They're enemies of sun and moon. So, with just the natural planetary relationship between these two, those type of negative things could happen. Where, like I said, the Rahu is like, I hate moon. I'm not used to having to deal with emotions and a mother and all this stuff. So he becomes destructive and all that stuff. But the exact qualities of what this conjunction is going to do is, like I said, it depends on the sign, it depends on the nakshatra, it depends on how close in degrees these two grahas are. You gotta look at the dispositor of Rahu, and that's essentially it. I'm about to check my notes just to make sure I didn't miss nothing with this. But yeah, one other tiny thing that I would say with this conjunction is that these people, they can have a very chameleon like personality, a real adaptable, type of personality. Their emotions could probably be really easily influenced based upon their surroundings, by their environment. Why do I say that? One, I said this in my Rahu conjunct Sun video. And two, it's because, like I said, these two grahas, they don't produce their own light. Moon reflects the light of the sun, and the North Node and South Node, they don't produce their own light. They're shadows. Shadows are born from light. You need light to produce a shadow. You can't produce a shadow in just darkness, can you? You need some type of light or whatever, for the most part. Unless I'm stupid, I don't know. But because of that fact, and because these two are greatly influenced by other things and stuff, you would be someone who could easily be strongly, greatly influenced by your surroundings and environment. Especially if the moon is your Atma Karga, which means it's the planet of the highest degree. Especially if the moon is your ascendant lord, or especially if its conjunction falls in, like, the first house. Then we could see that you could be someone whose personality and emotions greatly adapts and depends on the environment that they're in. You might be one person one moment, you might be another person this moment. You might have this alter ego. You might have an alter ego for every crowd and for every environment. Some people are who they are no matter what environment they're in. They're who they are. You speak to everybody, they'll be like, I met the same person. That's exactly the type of person that, they say they are. And then you might meet other people, and it's like, around their family, they're this way. Around their friends, they're that way. At work, they're this way. And like I said, then you just got some people, they are 100% who they are in all surroundings, at any moment, at all times. But this conjunction, especially if it's in, like I said, the first house, or if it's with the ascendant lord, or the Atma Karga, the planet of the highest degree, then they can more so have a very chameleon-like personality. But that's essentially all I have to say with this, conjunction. I hope this gave you great quality and insight what happens when the North Node, Rahu, and the Moon are in conjunction in your birth chart. And see you when I make my next video.